In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by, hey, you guessed it, my book, Tom. Hey, until we sell a million copies, I'm going to keep plugging in, you know. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com. Hey, you could also check out BillyCBoxing.com. I think there's still a special going on. I'm not sure. I got to check with the publisher. But if you click on the book on BillyCBoxing.com, it'll tell you right away, and it was on sale for like half price. So today's show is also being brought to us in part by Classic Boats. Hey, if you're looking for a classic boat, custom built wood, listen, just check it out, classicboats.co. That's classicboats.co. Your dream can come true today. Today, we got a busy show. We got a busy show scheduled for you today. I'll give a shout out to my man Coach and Joel and Sean. My man Sean is in the chat room early. That's great. Busy show today. First and foremost, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on why I feel that boxing needs unity and not division. This is something we've been talking about on this show for a long time, but you know, over this past weekend, I was checking out some fights, and you know, it's like everybody's running solo, you know. And anyway, I'll be talking about that a little bit later. I'm going to update you on the latest boxing news, including the Jay Apatea versus IBF fight that's taking place right now as we speak. Tank Davis, his potential next opponent, and much more. My man Daxx Khan is going to be stopping by. He's got some thoughts on the other fight that's going on. That's between Oscar De La Hoya and Vergil Ortiz, as well as the big, let me rephrase that, the huge fight that's taking place in May between Inoue and Nakatani. Boys and girls, children of all ages, my main squeeze, I'm going to call her my squeeze, Chevelle Hallback, former multi-division world champion. She just popped into the chat room. Chevy, we got to get you on this show, man. And she's in the chat room. What a surprise that is. Class act. If you've never seen Chevy fight, punch her up on YouTube. Forget about her quality as a fighter. She's not only great as a fighter, but one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. I love you, Chevy. Anyway, Dax is going to be coming on to talk about that this week. Speaking about female fighters, this week, we got the return of Amelia Moore. Remember, she came on the show a couple of months back. She went from the pro boxing league. She's fought in other combat sports. She's now in boxing. She's undefeated. She's highly, touted. She's fighting for her first title coming up at the end of the month. So we're glad to have her back. But first, let's talk about some fight results. First and foremost, my man Jay Apatea was in a pretty tough fight. I told you guys that this guy, Glanton, was, or Glanton, however you want to pronounce it. You know me, I murder names. Brandon Glanton was a tough character, and he certainly proved it on Sunday night. But the technical skill of Apatea was just a little too much, and he won a unanimous decision. He improved to 30 wins, no losses, 23 coming by knockout. Glanton drops to 21-3 with 18 knockouts. I tell you something. Glanton was saying before this fight, you're gonna know who I am. I'm gonna get a lot of respect after this fight. He got respect from me. I'd like to see him again. Not that he put on some kind of great performance, but he stayed on his feet for 12 rounds against Jay Apatea, which, in my opinion, in the cruiserweight division, is pretty good. Jay Apatea won the very first Zuffa Boxing World title. He's now the Zuffa Boxing, and temporarily, I guess, I don't know, I'm going to be talking about that fight. That's another side fight that Jay Apatea is having with the IBF, who, according to Team Apatea, at the last minute told him he wasn't fighting for it, but the IBF has a different version of the story, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, Apatea took home the first Zuffa Boxing belt. I thought this fight was okay. At the end, all three judges scored the fight the same, 119-106. Crazy score. Well, that's because of the crazy-ass judge that was judging this fight. The referee who was refereeing this fight. What a nutcase. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just go through some other fights that were on this card. And, of course, I'm going to give Zuffa Boxing another attaboy because I love the card. In a 10-round welterweight fight, Ricardo Salas improved to 23-2 with a couple of draws, with 17 knockouts when he stopped his opponent, Jesus Sachero, in the eighth round. Sachero drops to 16-2 with a couple of draws and 12 of his wins coming by knockout. In a really entertaining fight, excuse me, Pablo Rubio took care of his opponent, and Adrian Palmera was won. He lost a unanimous decision against Rubio. Rubio improves. The judges scored at 77-73, and two of them, and one judge had it 76-74. Rubio moves to 15-0 with 5 knockouts. Palmera drops his first loss of his career, 14-1 now with 9 knockouts. There was a good fight between Vlad Panin and Shinard Bunch. Palin moved to 24-2 with 15 knockouts by winning that fight. Bunch drops to his fourth fight of his career, 22-4 with a draw, and 18 of his wins coming by knockout. In the heavyweight division, Joshua Juarez took Jardy Anderson through 8 rounds. The way the judges scored at 79-73, 78-74, 77-75, all for Juarez. He's still undefeated at 15-0 with 9 knockouts. Anderson drops his second fight of his career, 11-2 with 9 knockouts. In the featherweight division, Ethan Ramos and Jacob Perez put on a pretty entertaining fight. At the end, it was a majority draw. One judge had a 57-55 for Ramos, and twice 56-56 as a draw. Perez now 8-0 with a draw and 3 knockouts, and Ramos goes to 4-1 with a draw and 1 knockout. There was a couple of other exciting fights on this card as well. Here's my thoughts on the card. First and foremost, I thought that Zuffa Boxing once again came through. I mean, I loved the card. Look, I was telling you guys about what we were going to see with this. All right. And we're seeing it. We're seeing entertaining fights. We may not know. Listen, I'll be honest. I wasn't as familiar with, especially these guys that, had 8 fights or less. I wasn't as familiar with them. This is these are the kinds of fights you need to watch. You need to watch young fighters climbing the ladder, fighting against other fighters that are similar No more cherry picking, no more, hiding and maintaining let them fight each other, because even in a loss, if they perform well, they're going to gain some fanfare. And the one thing that I believe that Zuffa Boxing is going to give these fighters, especially the young ones, um, no, Sean, my man Sean saying, is Oscar still fighting? No, he's not fighting. It's a lawsuit. It's a lawsuit that I was talking about. But one thing about this Zuffa Boxing that I really enjoy is the entertaining fights. And at the end of the day, boys and girls, isn't boxing? It's a form of entertainment. Yes, the athletes, they work very hard. They deserve as much money as they possibly can get. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment. And part of my main topic today is unity. And when I say unity in boxing, I want to see all these fighters in one pool to be competing against each other. And then the best will truly rise to the top. I'll get to that in a second. But my thoughts on the broadcast. And the reason why I'm breaking down these broadcasts is because it's kind of news up for boxing. It's on Paramount. First and foremost, I got 6 points I want to make. First and foremost, Sundays, Betty bad. I don't like the fights on Sundays, especially at night. I like to be in my feety pajamas early on, especially on Sundays. But luckily, the Paramount platform lets you watch the replay. So when I wake up, at the crack of 3 a.m., I get to watch the fight as if it's live. And the thing I did like a little better about Paramount, to be honest, is they showed a fight. I didn't have to watch all the other bullshit, all of the ring walks and all the little stories beforehand that I already know, so I got to watch the fight, the every round, bang. It was great. I didn't like that I didn't get to see some of the other fights, the undercard. I had to search for those later on, but I would have liked to have seen, the whole card, just the fights like they did without all the BS. I don't like Sundays. Dana, if you're listening, try to move them to Fridays. I know you got your UFC on Saturdays. I think this would be great. There's Zuffa Boxing on Paramount on Friday nights. Remember, we used to have something called Friday Night Fights, and Friday Night Fights used to be great. I used to love it. I love Tuesday Night Fights too, but the point is that Friday Night Fights, it's like it kicks off the weekend, and especially if you see an entertaining card like we saw, on Sunday, that it would be great. Listen, Dana, if you're watching, if you're listening, if somebody is watching or listening, give Dana a call. Tell him Friday nights will work a lot better. The commentating team, Joe Tessitore, Max Kellerman, Andre Ward. Look, Joe Tessitore, I said this before. Joe Tessitore can call a football game better than anybody you've ever seen, especially college. Okay, boy, does he call a great game. Boxing, he used to be better than he is now. Now he's hard to listen to sometimes. Max Kellerman, he's a knowledgeable guy. But you got Andre Ward. So, the thing is Max Kellerman is talking about things that Andre Ward should be talking about, and they kind of talk over each other, there was one point where Max was talking about footwork and, being the guy who gets the lead foot and spending all his time, like he's the fighter. I think Andre Ward should get those things, and Max Kellerman should analyze other aspects of the fight. One other thing, they didn't shut up, boys and girls. Joe Tessitore, Max Kellerman, and Andre Ward did not shut up for 1 second of every round. They talked and talked and talked. I don't know about you, but I kind of want to watch the friggin' fight. I don't want to watch. And not only that, here's two, they were talking about the punch stats so quickly into this fight. It's like, is that's what's happened to you guys, the boxing audience? Are you that unknowledgeable of the sport that you need somebody to tell you exactly what's happening every second of 3-minute rounds? I mean, if you haven't seen it, they did not shut up. I kid you not. Now, I've had producers tell me, while I'm doing broadcast live, events. Got to keep talking. You got to keep talking. I listen. I understand that you don't want dead air, but there's a time to let the fans watch what's happening. That's why I loved Nick Charles. Nick Charles is one of the best boxing announcers ever. And he used to say, we lost him too early, unfortunately, but he said, the secret to calling boxing is call the action that's in front of you. These guys were just dragging it out. Then here's another thing I didn't like. They were actually showing replays during the round. So you're watching the fight, and all of a sudden, oh, here's that punch. It's down in the left-hand part of the screen. So what do? You look down there at the replay and you miss something on the live action. I don't know if I like that. I like watching the replays right in after the round when they're in their corners. They're getting instructions. They're getting water, whatever they're doing in their corner. That's the time to make some comments about the round. That's the time to talk about the replays and good punches that landed, or if there was a knockdown or what have you. That's the time to do it, not during the fight, in my opinion. The punch stats, listen, I complain about this. They all do it. I just don't get Coach is saying I envisioned you turning the sound off. I almost did, but I was trying to evaluate it, but I hung in there, Coach. I hung in there. The punch stats, look, boys and girls, it's not statistics. We talk about this all the time. It's guys that are it's opinionated. It's subjective. You and me and Joe Schmo can be sitting ringside. We could even be sitting next to each other and watch a punch that gets thrown. And I could say it landed flush. The one guy could say it missed. The other one could say it grazed him, defensive move. I mean, that's just the angle that you're watching the fight. So to suggest that two guys, and that's how it works, two guys, if you're lucky, one guy's got the red corner, one guy's got the blue corner, and they're counting the punches. They're also scoring what they believe is a power punch or a jab. And one of the things that I don't like about the punch stats is that, a jab is counted as a jab. So if you open up the fight and you jab and you knock your opponent out with a jab, a nice stiff, hard jab, it's still a jab. They don't call it a power shot, even though it just knocked the guy out. It's kind of strange. I like the stats after the fight as a discussion topic. The referee, Alan Huggins, was probably the worst refereeing job I've seen in a very long time. I mean, this guy, I think he was trying to keep up with the announcers because he didn't shut up either. He was barking at these guys. Every time they did something, he would yell at them, stop, holding. Max made a good point during this, because each of them at times were wrapping their opponent's glove, but they were actively punching and landing punches with their free hand, which, a lot of referees will tell you, good referees will tell you that they let them do that. They get an opportunity to punch their way out, fight their way out of the half clinch. This guy kept breaking them up every time. And he ended up taking a couple of points away from both of them. 1 point from Apatea for holding, 1 point from Glanton for holding, 1 point from Glanton for hitting low blows. I mean, he over refereed. It was sad. It was sad to watch. And then my last point on this fight is that the crowd seems small. And, one of the things I'm always telling you guys, how I love the UK boxing scene, the European boxing scene in general. Chevy and I, we're in Europe a couple of times, and the crowds were always crazy, and you watch them on TV, and they always are. They're into it. They're cheering. They're singing. They're having a good time. It's a diversified crowd. Young people, old people, couples, single people, girls by themselves, guys by themselves. I mean, it's a diversified crowd. Here in the States, you don't see that as much, and they sit there. They're very quiet. They're very, very, very quiet. Maybe they get a little crazy if somebody gets knocked out or somebody's getting rocked pretty bad. They'll all of a sudden wake up. But aside from that, I'm talking about the European fans. They're singing and cheering every second of the round, even if it's not exciting. So some other fights real quick. This is a guy's name that you need to remember. Ryan Rozicki. Ryan Rozicki improved to 21-1 with a draw. He was had an injury, and and this fight, no knock to Rozicki, because Rozicki is in line for a world title shot, cruiserweight division. So you might even see him against Jay Apatea maybe in the future. But he's the one that wants to fight Noel McKillian. They had a fight that fell out. They had the rematch that fell out. They had a fight before. But here's the difference. Rozicki, he improved to 21-1-1 with 20 knockouts. He fought a guy that was 12-5. He ended up, after losing, he was 12-5. The difference with the Zuffa cards is you're not going to really see that. You're going to see competitive fights, we'll see what happens. My man John is in there saying Rozicki's going to fight McKillian at some point soon. Yeah, well, McKillian called out Jay Apatea, so we'll see how Rozicki fits in there, brother, because Jay Apatea and McKillian could make a lot more money fighting Apatea than he can Rozicki. But Rozicki, I'm sure, would be in the mix for one of those two guys. So I like what's happening with the cruiserweight division. It's finally starting to catch on, which I'm so happy, because I've been loving the cruiserweight division for years now. It's basically like the way the heavyweight division was. John saying, well, Rozicki's the number one contender. Hey, we don't need no stinking belts anymore. Nobody cares about the belts. He's the number one contender after beating a 12-5 guy. Come on. But we'll see. This is what I love about Zuffa boxing. And you're starting to see some movement. I'm going to get to that in a second. With fighters not paying sanctioning fees, kicking the belts to the side, to the curb, because they can make more. Listen, it's called prize fighting. The fighters are finally realizing, listen, I want to make as much money as I can. And, in order to do that, I got to fight a tough fight, but I'm going to, be financially set. I don't care about a belt. Oh, what? You got a belt? Okay, I'll fight for that belt. Misfits Boxing. They had an event, and this is going to be a great segue. John, would you stop? No, I know I'm not getting paid by Zuffa Boxing, but I definitely like it. But anyway, Misfits Boxing. Now, I watched this, and it was entertaining. Gabe Rosado. Remember Gabe Rosado? He headlined it, and he fought and lost to a cat named Ty Mitchell, who just got out of jail. All these guys had this that were on this card had a story. Jordan Banjo, he looks like a really good heavyweight, but the Misfits is like another league, okay? And this is my whole point. So I want to talk about unity. All right. Boxing needs unity, not division. Boxing needs unity, not division. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, okay. First and foremost, up until Zuffa Boxing, hey, John, every time I say Zuffa Boxing, we should have balloons falling and stuff like that. Next time we do an event. But anyway, you think about it, right? Before they all teamed up, you had the four sanctioning bodies: WBC, the WBO, the IBF, and the WBA, who by themselves have 47,000 belts that they give out. But, it was kind of like, well, if you fight for a WBC belt, you're not, ranked anywhere else. And they would occasionally have unification fights. They're getting a lot better with that now. But in a sense, you had four sanctioning bodies and all trying. Now keep in mind, the success of UFC by Dana White and the model that it was, the way it is, the way it works. Everybody was trying to copy in their own little world, even on a low scale. I'm not going to mention because he's I'm obviously pronouncing things wrong here. John is correcting me, but even on a small scale, there's some smaller promoters that try to run by themselves, and they have their own little world. The big fish in a little teeny puddle. Pond. But you got the WBC, WBA, WBO, right? IBF. They're all kind of working separately. You also had the Professional Fight League. Remember that? Or it's still going on now, where they fight in like a team format, which is pretty cool. But they're pros. They're pro fighters, right? You got Zuffa. I've been pronouncing it wrong. John just corrected me. John from LDL TV. He also works for Don King Promotions. He's my man, and he's in here producing my show from the chat room. So I appreciate that. But Zuffa is another one. Misfits is here. I just talked about that. The bare knuckle boxing, right? Promoters, they are working better today. I mean, there was a time not too long ago, even 4 years ago, 5 years ago. If you weren't signed with a promoter, you weren't fighting another fighter that was with another promoter. So they're getting better. They're all trying to beat out Zuffa, which I think they're all going to lose because you heard my predictions. I do believe that Usyk will sign with Zuffa. I do believe that after this layup he's fighting, he will sign with them and probably retire. His last fight will be with them, but it will be a plug for them. I also believe that Ryan Garcia is going to sign with them. And I believe Shakur Stevenson will sign with them. And the icing on the cake, and I think we're going to be hearing about this one real soon. These are just my predictions. Canelo will be fighting for Zuffa Boxing for a Zuffa title in September. That's my prediction. Anyway, could you imagine if we were able to get all of these guys to play nice and work together? Now, you'd have to kind of cross out the sanctioning bodies because there has to be one sanctioning body. There has to be one, okay? But if you got the pool of fighters and maybe all four sanctioning bodies combine and make one, they can all get big positions in there or whatever. But consider this. If you took all the fighters that strictly fight for the WBC and all the fighters that strictly fight for the WBA and all the fighters that strictly fight for the WBO and the IBF and the Professional Fight League and the Misfit Boxing League and the Bare Knuckle Boxing League and fighters that are signed to exclusive contracts with promoters that they can only fight on that promoter's promoted show, and of course Zuffa Boxing. If we took all those fighters, all those licensed fighters, right, and they all became in the pool of fighters that could fight each other, and they had a rise to the top based on who they beat, the ladder climbing, if you will. The number 10 guy fights the number 9 guy, all the way up to the top. Initially, the number 1 and number 2 guys fight for the world title, and then it's simply the man who beat the man. Except you got to, in order to get a shot at the man, you got to work your way up. And, you don't really, if you lose, you go back down, but you get to climb back up. You're not, it's not like your career is over. Could you imagine how great the sport would be? Because what's happening now with Zuffa Boxing, in my opinion, is they are doing this. And if the rest of these promoters don't learn to play nice, they're going to be struggling because the fighters are going to try to make as much money as they can. Every fighter truly, maybe not every fighter, leave Floyd Mayweather out of this, but every fighter truly wants to fight the best. They want to prove they're the best, and they're not afraid of anybody. Okay, if you're brave enough to get into the ring to fight, you're not afraid of anybody. That's the fact. All right. But what makes a fighter not take a fight generally is his team around him or the fear that he's going to lose his own. Now, if that fear is erased, if you don't really lose anything by losing a fight or two, and you still get the opportunities to climb the ladder and become a world champion. At better than that, because the champions that Zuffa Boxing are going to crown eventually when they get, this talent pool going, because they're building it. All these fighters that you saw on the undercard that are putting on these great shows, they're the guys that are going to be climbing the top. So we're going to know them, which is a whole nother thing. And the value of that, which the notoriety, the fact that people know who you are, that brings value to the game too. Again, I think Zuffa is going to succeed. I hope they do. I'm in their corner. But a way that would even be better is, instead of trying to fight Zuffa, why don't the people in the boxing world that make all the decisions get together, have a sit down, like we call it, have a sit down and iron it out, make it work. Because if you had all of those fighters fighting each other, man, you would have a great sport of boxing. It would be the way it was. It would be the way it was. People say, "Oh, how can we get back to the way it was?" This is the only way. Either that, or you'll be abandoning ship here. So that's what I think. Boxing needs unity instead of division. And I do believe that we'll get some success with Zuffa. We'll get some success with other promoted fights. But at the end of the day, I think unity is what boxing needs to become mainstream sports media again. We were talking about Jay Patea. Now, like I said before, he fought for the very first world title for Zuffa on Sunday night when he beat Brandon Glanton. But prior to the fight, a lot of stuff was out there about the IBF not sanctioning the fight, which they did not, and stripping him, which they have not. And then it came out today that Jay Patea has an attorney, and they're potentially putting together a let's just say a beef, where the attorney said that they have good reason to believe that the IBF's decision to withdraw the sanctioning of their title with his fight against Glanton was a product of a coordinated industry-wide collusion designed to punish, and this is him, meaning Jay Patea, for working with Zuffa Boxing and deter other athletes from doing the same. The sanctioning bodies seem to be teaming up. The IBF put out a statement saying that wasn't the case, that they did get the sanctioning fee from Team Patea, paid in full, transferred to fight for their title, but they decided not to and had returned it prior to the fight. Their stance is that, the Zuffa Boxing is not considered a major sanctioning body yet. And they did say that they had left the door open for Dana White and Zuffa Boxing to, show them, apply, and they could very well be accepted in the future. But right now, you see, my opinion on this is I think that the sanctioning bodies are going to lose this battle, because the fighters themselves, they're watching this right now. So what do? You strip the title, right? So Jay Patea is arguably the best cruiserweight on the planet, right? He's arguably the best cruiserweight on the planet. And, he's the guy that, people want to see, at least at this point. If you look at talent, strictly talent, he's the guy. Now he has the ring belt. He's now got the Zuffa belt, and he had the IBF belt. Now, if the IBF strips him and, they have two other people fight for it, so what is that doing for the cruiserweight division? Because you remember the other title holder is Gilberto Ramirez, who is fighting David Benavidez. So he's the other title holder, and who's been avoiding fighting Jay Apatea, and then you got Noel McKillian, who's got the other belt. So these guys are all fighting. You got Benavidez taking on Gilberto Ramirez. So if Ramirez wins, he's got all those fights we just talked about with all the other cruiserweights. If Benavidez wins, he's not going to go back down to light heavyweight. He's going to stay a cruiserweight. And then he gets those fights. He gets the opportunity. I'm sure he would love an opportunity, David Benavidez, to fight Jay Apatea. So the IBF is going to walk away from Jay Apatea. It's the same thing. The sanctioning bodies used to let Floyd Mayweather get away with all kinds of stuff because they wanted him to have their belts. And the same thing. As a sanctioning body, if you're trying to scare the fighters, you don't have the pockets that Zuffa Boxing and the people that are backing Zuffa Boxing have. You're going to lose the money battle. I mean, just look at Conor Benn. I mean, he just got $15 million to fight, a one-fight deal, $15 million, and he's not even fighting, a real badass opponent. No disrespect to his opponent. Now, he may lose the fight because the opponent is a good fighter, just not a main top name, So, and even Eddie Hearn was saying, "Oh, I can't believe it. He turned down." Talking about Ben, he turned down several championship opportunities to take this. Well, it seemed pretty obvious that Conor Benn took it because of the do-re-mi. He makes life-changing money in one fight. And, if he wins, he's going to make some more. If he loses, he's just made some big bucks on the Eubank card, on the Eubank 2 fights that he had. So, this is what's happening. And I don't understand why they're going against their fighters. The pool of the fighters is the most important thing. And speaking of the IBF, and now, okay, where's my pronunciation coaches now? Because Zanabek Alamukulni, which I can never pronounce his name. I did once. I did get it right once, but he was the former IBF middleweight world champion because the IBF just stripped him because he tested positive for a trace of what do you call it? Melodome, basically part of enhancing drugs, which, his side is claiming that it was such a small amount, and they're the Kazakhstan Professional Boxing Federation, who oversees the fighters in that country, they put him on a suspension till June 1st of this year, but the IBF has him on suspension much longer. So, here's a case where that belt is vacated. So, if the IBF and the WBC keep it up, they're going to have tons of belts that are going to be vacant in the near future. So the bare knuckle boxing, I know you guys, I know I've talked about it, and it's kind of brutal and it's kind of entertaining. They're doing very well with the right. Coach is reminding me that that's the reason. So according to his team and the Kazakhstan governing body, he had to have an emergency procedure done, and part of the stuff that they were giving him had traces of the melodomin or whatever, however you pronounce it, that he got popped for. But anyway, the bare knuckle boxing, Joel's saying it's you know what? it's what I like about it, and the reason, we may say, as boxing purists, we may say, but the thing is first of all, boxing started out like that, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't even as refined. What I like about it is the fact that it's over pretty quick, and these guys are tough. I mean, it's like a tough man. It's not the sweet science, um, but I give these guys credit. And the other thing I'm noticing is that the places are packed. Every one of these events I'm seeing are packed. They're drawing crowds. They got fans. I know they're not paying the guys much, but I mean, we had the kid on here that was made his pro debut. He fights whatever. He does MMA. He does this. He boxes. They're fighters. But they're getting some names. You knew that Paulie Malignaggi, and he's actually fighting for a world title in May, and he's part of it, which shocked me because his style of fighting, I didn't think would be that great for bare knuckle boxing. But this is my point. It's not just like two drunken hillbillies beating each other up. These guys, they are trying to establish a jab. There are some pretty decent counter punching. Defensively, if you have any defense, you're gonna come out of there, with all your teeth still in your mouth. But they got him. They signed Uriel Gamboa, which is another guy, and Gamboa is another one that I'm curious to see how he does, because he wasn't, his chin was the weakest. Joel has asked me to answer Mariano. Yes, I did. And let's see, what do we got? I've watched both. Joel is asking me bare knuckle fighting championships or bare knuckle boxing. I've watched both of them. The BKB is the one that's starting to get these guys like Gamboa. Lee Selby is a guy from England. He's a good fighter. Paulie Malignaggi, Victor Ortiz signed. These are guys I would have never thought, especially Victor Ortiz. Victor Ortiz was the one famously said nobody should take a beating like this. Nobody. If you're a carpenter or EMT person, or you worked in a gas station or whatever, a mechanic, engineer, they shouldn't have to take a beating. But if you decide to be a professional boxer, chances are you might take a beating every now and then. But it was announced today that John Molina signed. Now, this was a guy that could take a beating. John Molina could take a punch. He got beat up, but he could all of a sudden, he's getting beat up for 10 rounds, and then he comes out for the 11th, and he knocks his opponent out. It's going to be interesting to see about him, to see how he is. So, they're getting some names. All in all, that's good for that brand. But again, it's like, all these fighters that are signing up, they're signing up because maybe they don't have any opportunities in, boxing, whatever, WBC, all those other areas. Maybe they're getting no opportunities. Maybe they don't have any people, a trainer or whatever, manager, something, so they're going to whatever opportunity comes to them. And it's, they're all running standalone. Now with these guys in bare knuckle boxing, it does seem that they're signing guys that are, probably couldn't pass the physicals in, New York and Nevada and New Jersey. Paulie Malignaggi, I mean, he's no spring chicken. John Molina, I mean, all these guys, Gamboa, they're, maybe they can't fight, in the others, I want to say professional boxing, but that is professional. Anyway, it would be interesting to see if some of the younger guys, because there are some of the young guys that would, consider fighting boxing instead of that. Like, why aren't they doing it? So there's a lot of rumor that Tank Davis is going to fight again. We all heard him say he wasn't. Then he was going to fight Jake Paul, and that fell through. And then he fought his girlfriend and got arrested there. So now he's looking to get a fight in the ring. And they're talking about a rematch against Pitbull Cruz. They're talking about there has been several reports that they're negotiating the fight. Now, I'm wondering about this fight. You look at Pitbull Cruz. He's a warrior. He's a warrior. He's perfect for Tank Davis. I mean, Tank Davis couldn't ask for another, a better opponent than him. I mean, he comes right at you. So I don't know what the holdup would be unless Pitbull is trying to, get a little too much money. But I don't know. But that's the word on the curb that's going to be taking place. But now, you guys knew her. She was on this show before, and we said we were going to have her back again. And here she is, undefeated super lightweight Amelia Moore joins us again. What's up, girl?
Hey, what's going on, Billy? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, listen, thanks for taking the time. I know you're working hard. First and foremost, okay, I'm going to ask you. You knew I was going to talk to you about just like general boxing stuff because I want to get your opinion because you kind of fit into this really well today. Before I get to the title fight you're fighting on the 28th. So one of my main topics today is I feel boxing should focus on unity instead of division. And I used as examples, all of the other parts of boxing, like the professional fight league, bare knuckle boxing. You got Zuffa boxing. You got the misfit boxing. You got the sanctioning bodies all like to be on their own most of the time. The promoters sometimes don't work. So my point is, if all those people could play nice, and instead of being forced to pick and choose which group you want to fight under, wouldn't we have such a great pool of fighters that we could really, weed out the good ones? I mean, to me, that's what boxing's all about. What's your thoughts on that? Because you did fight in a professional fight league, and you got some experience with just this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't have semi-pro, right, in boxing, and I think that's really where the interesting part of having the fight leagues in existence, because you don't get to pick and choose. And my gosh, like, talk about the division right now in boxing, like currently, like you're already seeing how Dana White and Eddie Hearn are kind of going tit for tat right now. It's a very Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, who's the bigger man situation right now. It's hilarious to me. Yeah. How much money can we throw around just to show who's more dominant? But I mean, one of the biggest issues is it's always going to be money and authority. Like I think that's where the division comes from. People wanting to be, or whatever sanctioning body, whatever promotion, instead of working together, they're really concerned about holding on to whatever asset they have. And we talked about, I think the last time I was on, we were talking about, protecting fighters. And I don't know, it looks like Zuffa is not doing that. I really like that MVP is giving their champions hard fights. And so, they don't seem to be discriminating. And that's a really interesting take, because I feel like they're kind of reinvigorating the sport in a sense. But yeah, I mean, the division right now is bananas. We are looking at everybody kind of, WBC really trying to hang on to their prestige, and placing themselves, there's the top, we were in the 4-belt era. There's those top 4 big commissions. WBC wants to be the biggest one. They want to hold that prestige. And in a sense, it's also creating division all the way down the line. It becomes a high school cafeteria of which table are you going to sit at, you know?
I know. It's pretty comical, but like I said earlier, at the end of the day, they call it prize fighting for a reason. And you yourself, that you're in this to try to put yourself in the best position financially. And like I also said earlier, fighters are fighters. You're not afraid to fight anybody. I mean, any person that's going to get in the ring and fight, they're not afraid to fight anybody. To suggest so and so is afraid to fight so and so, that's not the case. They're not afraid. They just financially can't work the deal out. And when you have somebody like Dana White and the backing behind him, what I'm thinking is going to happen is the money's going to go there. Yes, the fights are going to be tough, but the fighters are going to be able to make more money. And I think Conor Ben just showed that. And we'll see. And remember, the sanctioning bodies, they get a cut. Somebody else has to lay out the money. You know what I mean? And this guy is kind of doing it himself. But anyway, I got a question before I ask you my questions. My man Coach is in the chat room. He's asking you a question. He says, what does he say here? Wait a minute. He's giving me, that's the second question. Hold on. This Coach drives me crazy. Okay, this is the question. He's saying, Amelia, myself, having spent 2 years in 79, 80, enlisted in the Naval Marine Corps station in Annapolis. While at the Naval Academy, did you fight in the annual brigade boxing championships? He's asking.
I wish I had. I trained for it. I didn't have anybody for me to compete against, and that actually I wanted to so bad, and it kind of is really what pushed me in the direction of being in a more traditional amateur career. Because when I was at the Naval Academy, the coach at the time, who recently retired, he didn't allow women on their competition team, and so it actually pushed me to. I was running like a mile off base to go get a car that I wasn't supposed to have, that was parked in a marina that nobody was supposed to know about, and driving 20 minutes out to Millersville, Maryland to train with Thomas Langley, who used to be Tony Jetter's coach. And yeah, so I wish I had, but also round of applause for that door being closed, because I never, ever would have pursued more and made my way onto Team USA and kind of being the person that I am today. So unfortunately, I missed that extra little blip on my resume, but man, I tried though. I did. I tried, made the weight, all the wrong ways, and made sure I was ready for it, but didn't have the opportunity.
Coach, always, because we had a guest last week, and he calls me the next day. He's going, that guy, he must know me. Only so many people know that. He was asking me about a coach he had years and years ago, Mike Silver. But anyway, you got a big fight coming up. You're fighting for the NABF super lightweight title. So what's your thoughts on fighting for this title? Like, I'm looking at it like this is part of the progression to the end result that you're looking for. What's this fight mean to you in order to obtain that?
Yeah. Like I've said probably 100 times over, always going for progressive fights, right? Like we are looking for those stepping stones to be able to be undeniable and be in the conversation. And I've even like had those moments where people are like, oh, would you fight so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah. However, we have to be in the conversation and get ourselves into the ranking where that's even plausible and the fan base has built, and we're in that place where we've created it, where we are fully on board to be in the conversation. We're driving the narrative, and we have the opportunity to be able to get into the big fights. And that's what this represents for me. Right now, I'm ranked number 2 in the WBO, 5 or 6 or 7 in the WBA. NABF is a great, feed in through the WBC to be ranked in the top 5. So to be ranked in the big 3, in the big 4, in the top 5 is huge, and really places us into that conversation, so that we can start rumbling with the people that we should be rumbling with. And I'm very, very happy that the opponent that that Bonnie Hunter accepted the fight. I feel that she's a really great athlete. She's number 2 in Canada, has an amateur background, and I look at other people's records and I'm just like, people always fight down, and that's not my intention. I mean, I just did 8 4-minute rounds at the Olympic Training Center. Like I don't know why people back away from the opportunity of growth. If you get your ass beat in a training session, congratulations. I hope you encode that and you become better at the next rounds, because, it's just like, people, they want to be big fish in little ponds. And I'm like, ew, that's not, I want to be great, and I want to work with really great people and have that fun and that energy in the gym, but push each other every moment. So that's what this fight's about. This fight's about being dominant and really having a good opponent. And, Bonnie's very tough. She's never been dropped. I'm super strong. I have so many tools in my toolbox, and I train with really amazing people that push me every single day. And my coach has a great, we constantly are strategy, and pushing my strengths, but even pushing my weaknesses even more, so that, it's never a deterrence to, my capability. Like, we want to keep growing. I want to be, in my training sessions, I get so excited when I have to work through a new challenge. So yeah, that's really what this fight's about, is like, let's keep climbing to be fully in the conversation and not undeniable. I feel like it's going to be on my tombstone.
Listen, what you're striving for, this is what I love about you. What you're striving for is exactly what I was just talking about, of what I felt could be done if boxing was unified. And I did single out Zuffa Boxing. They were busting my chops. I think I work for Dana White, which I don't. But
they're like, you getting a check? Come on, Billy.
But I wish I would. But the thing is exactly what you're striving for is what they do. Like, you climbing the ladder. And an interesting thing, you mentioned fan base. And, I look at boxing today and I say, and I've said this a lot, promoters sometimes don't promote. It's up to the fighter. And you yourself have created your own fan base because you have multiple things people can follow you for. But how important is that today for, a young fighter to get a fan base and keep them happy?
Yeah, it's everything. My God, look at MVP. They just signed some girl from Brazil with 3 million followers. I don't think she can fight herself out of a wet paper bag. So, I mean, I was joking. I think this is not a PG podcast today. I tell all. Amelia.
Never is. Come on.
I asked one of my female friends who's also a really great boxer, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And she's like, you need to get a boob job. And I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I'm not doing it, guys. Like, apparently that's what gets you 3 million followers and gets you signed to MVP. So, no, I mean, you're just gonna have to kick that door in and keep leading with skill, and lots of heart. And not our cup size. So, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. You got to be diverse. You have to be versatile. My gosh, my background's in medical and oceanography and science, and here I am learning how to be a publicist, learning how to manage my social media, scheduling posts, working with videographers. I joke all the time that, I'm my own publicist, my own manager, my own, just everything, every coordination piece. But I enjoy that. Like, I like that I'm fully in the driver's seat and working with my team hand in hand, where, you have to know what's going on. And thank God for ChatGPT. I mean, this I know there's this whole conversation about AI and water hoarding, but I've learned so much in that regard. And it used to be that the game was exclusive to the people that had money, and the internet has, and AI has leveled that playing field. And so there's opportunity out there. If you want it, it's available to you to figure it out. But yeah, the PR portion is huge. There's opportunities that are out there that the door opens for whoever has the biggest fan base. And for me, it's grown slowly and organically. However, I want it to be real. I don't want to get famous for some crap. I want to get famous, or, fame, whatever the hell that means. But I want people to know me because I put value into the world. And there's, and I meet really interesting people. There's something they learn something when they're like, man, she's brains and brawn. And every time that you meet her, she's telling you something new and trying to elevate everybody around her. So yeah, it's important, fortunately and unfortunately, but it's the following's always been a big deal. Look at Muhammad Ali. He could sell a damn fight. That's what it was about. Like, who's showing up to watch somebody who can't fight? Well, I say that, and then what I just said earlier, but but people they want to see a good fight, but they want to be entertained. So, which is understandable. They're spending money, right?
It's an entertainment business. I mean, it's a tough one, and especially for the fighters, but it's entertainment. I mean, that's what you're getting paid for. You said you want to be great. My thoughts are the same as yours. And I think, I don't want to mention her name, but she goes around, self-proclaiming things, and is making some outrageous things, and it's always like she's trying to prove. I've always said this: boxing is a unique sport because you don't have to tell anybody how great you are. If you perform in the ring, they'll know it and they'll give you the accolades. Boxing is a sport that, if the fans love what you do and appreciate what you do, you will be taken care of. You will be put on that pedestal. You don't have to tell people to do it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the really beautiful things about this sport. I came up in boxing in Baltimore, DC area. And, the first time I ever walked into Upton Gym, it's like, they're like, you're going to spar. And my coach was like, yep. They're like, we're going to need you to sign this waiver. And, I mean, it's Upton Gym, Pennsylvania Ave in Baltimore. I mean, what the hell am I doing there? And, you go rounds, nobody speaks to you, you get out of the ring. And after you go those rounds, you show your talent. Boxing doesn't have borders when it comes to talent. If they think that, that's a really great thing about it. It doesn't matter what color, gender you are. Like, if you're a good fighter, the boxing community is gonna embrace you.
100%.
You know what I mean? So I really feel that way, and that's what makes it special. But yeah, I mean, it's all about how you get loud, right? And I think that's what's really interesting about, I mean, not everybody can do it. I mean, Katie Taylor, the most I've ever seen her speak out was the last fight with Amanda Serrano. And even that was pretty quaint and quiet and to character. She never bad mouths people. And it's like, how do you sell this product and maintain your character? And that's really, I think people struggle with that a lot. They fall into the Money Mayweather and what's been presented before. But Manny Pacquiao, you never saw him break character. He just kind of is himself. Terrence Crawford, kind of just himself, So it's, are you Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, or are you Katie Taylor? It's it's kind of like, how do you sell it, and will it work for you?
That's it. It's some things work for some people and doesn't work for others.
Yeah, it's an anomaly, right? Like, what is the cheat code? Because I'd love to know. I mean,
listen, I could tell you something about this, exactly what you're saying. I've been going through for 25 years. I'm like, what am I doing? But in any event, your opponent, she is tough, Bonnie Hunter. You got a 3-inch height advantage over her. Are you training any differently to make that adjustment, or is that no adjustment for you at all?
I mean, you have to be adaptable in the ring, right? So I think, like, you make a game plan, but also sometimes people stick to a game plan too much, where then they're incapable of thinking outside the box when the tides change. So, like, height, not really. I mean, I have so much amateur experience that, I mean, I have fought people that are, I mean, gosh, I fought athletes from India that are like 5'11", like crazy. There was a girl in the US, Kimberly Carlson, that I fought in the amateurs in the Olympic trials. I mean, she was almost 6 foot tall, so which is insane at 132. So I mean, 3 inches left or right is not It doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel like there needs to be like a big adjustment for that. Really, it's about how people manage distance, and that's the game changer. Like, do you have to step down? Do you have to double down? Like, and that's
She
I
comes
would
right at you, right?
yeah, from what I've seen,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
exactly like, and looking at how people are with their footwork. I mean, it tells everything. Your jab and your footwork will literally, they tattle on you. So that's everything. It's the foundation. If you don't have good feet and you don't understand what the jab does, which is 80% of your game, then I mean, it's pretty easy to figure somebody out pretty quickly.
You got you fighting. Oh, I just I got something to comment to you. I watched this. I watched you were saying, oh, they what do you need to do, right? Well, this was kind of funny because on the Misfits boxing, I just happened to be watching this over the weekend. There was this female fight, and
Oh gosh.
I don't know if you know these girls, but Pearl Gonzalez, she fought Carla Jade. Now, Carla Jade was a lower weight class coming up, and she was challenging for the middleweight title that Pearl Gonzalez had. And they really hated each other, right? Like, real bad. But Carla Jade was this, like, she came out in this pink stuff. It was like a wrestling thing. And even after she got beat up, okay, for the whole fight, she still was acting like she's the one that was making more money because of exactly what you said. She was a looker and she couldn't fight a lick. She couldn't throw punches. I mean, the punches were, you could drink a cup of coffee by the time it reached her target. She was that slow, and she was undefeated. So anyway, you're 100% right about that, and it's kind of sad sometimes. But March 28th, co-main event. You have any final thoughts on this fight that you could talk about, or I know you're working hard.
Yeah, I mean, totally working hard. There's so much to talk about. A dear friend of mine, I called her a couple weeks ago, and I was like, just hashing the idea of how to get the community in which I grew up to get some more support and get people to be able to come down and be able to be there. It's about ticket sales. No, I really just want to give the opportunity for people in the community that I grew up in to actually be able to see what I'm doing. So
they better hurry up. They might not be able to see you soon, right?
I know, right? I'm like, I'm trying to be in this forever. And so we were just hashing ideas, and I was like, man, wouldn't that be cool if we could do a fan bus? And she goes, hold on to that. And so the community came together. We literally, over the last like 5-7 days, we have been able to get 4 local businesses in Norway, South Paris, Oxford Hills, Maine, to fund a fan bus coming from Norway, South Paris, right out of the high school, where they're going to meet people and bring a 38 passenger bus down to Beverly, Mass for the fight. And like, I just like, sometimes it blows me away what you're capable of doing when you just put your best foot forward. And we didn't want it to be a barrier. It's still like, there's not, we're not talking like New York City. We're not talking LA. There's not like this crazy amount of money that, people still, have very much trade jobs. Like, I grew up around loggers, and, everybody hunts. And it's just like, how do we take away the barrier of making that drive, taking away the expense, so that people can, buy their ticket and just be able to just be there and take away the barriers. And so, yeah, we put this whole thing together, put out a press release on Monday, and just trying to get the community involved. And I've had the opportunity to do speaking tours up there with a bunch of the elementary schools and the high schools, and talk to the kids. It's like, I came up in a very small area, something like 7 towns make up our school district. There's kids that are on the bus for like an hour, coming all the way from, Harrison area all the way to Norway, South Paris, to be able to go to school. So yeah, that aspect of it, I'm so thrilled. Like, this is going to be, I just want to share it. Like, this is a big thing I've been doing. I've been on this wild journey for like the last 10 plus years, 3 Olympic cycles now. And, just kind of want to give back in this next big moment. My first, it's an interim title, is my title opportunity to actually have the opportunity to share it with everybody and get it out there. We we made this really cool promo video, my friends and I, and it aired on Nessun. And I'm like, look at us doing big stuff. Like it feels big, like I was in a commercial. It's exciting. And we're doing it. Like, it's literally like me boots on grounds with my friends making phone calls, and we're pulling it off. And, with the Nessun, the commercial, like, have to give the thanks to CES Boxing. They have their rebroadcast deal with them. They're like, we'll throw you, if you make a promo, we'll throw it on. And so, that was just, thanks guys, thanks for allowing me to kind of let my wings spread a little bit in that direction. So.
Well, you could see her. It's March 28th. Knockout at the Shore. Check out cesfights.com for tickets. I wish I could be there. Emily Harney was busting my chops to come, and but yeah, it's a little far. It's a little far.
We got group rates for hotels. Okay, hey, everybody, we got group rates for hotels. You're on your way. You said last time you were on the show, I want to fight every month if I can. Well, you know what? Assuming everything comes out the way you want, you'll be happy when Jill Diamond. I'm sure Jill Diamond will be the one presenting you your belt, and that'll be great. Keep us posted. We'd love to have you back for the next title that you're shooting for. Oh, I'll leave you with one thought, just because I don't know if you watched the MVP press conference with Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey, and I haven't
seen a little of that today.
Okay. So that Ronda Rousey was kind of like, by the way, this is the reason we're doing this. So I'm interested, and I know you're pulling for the idea of Zuffa boxing right now, but from what Ronda said, are they actually going to put their money where their mouth is and truly take care of the athletes? So yes, unifying things does make things more streamlined. It makes more opportunity, but will the opportunity be provided to the athletes? That's the thing. Like, if we're dealing with more CEOs and more, money mongering and yada, yada, that's a problem. But if it happens, cool. And that's it. I'm just going to leave you that little controversial devil's advocate.
You know how you're going to know if the money's being doled out?
Athletes will be showing up.
You got it.
Hey.
You got it. So we're in a win-win situation. That's what I'm saying. We're in a win-win situation. We can't lose. Amelia, good luck. And we'll have you back here soon, man.
Love it. Thanks, Billy. It's always a pleasure coming on the show. And anybody that's watching, I hope you guys get an opportunity to come out to the fight. If not, you can find streaming links on my website, ameliamoreboxing.com. It will be live streamed on Boxing TV. So tune in, tap in, and enjoy yourselves till then.
Well, I can't wait. Good luck, man.
Have a great one. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. All right. That's Amelia Moore fighting for her first title. And we had her on here, and we're going to have her back. I love her. Joining us right now to give us his thoughts on the big fight that's going on. Vergil Ortiz against Oscar De La Hoya. What's up, Daxx Khan?
What's up, Bill?
Oh, not much, man. Not much. Busy. So talk to us. What's your thoughts on that? And then you wanted to talk about the big fight in May. Anyway, yeah. Well, go ahead. You got
the Vergil Ortiz and De La Hoya incident is something that you and I experienced firsthand. Remember when we were out there for Canelo versus Jacobs? Ryan Garcia is paraded around. You didn't even know who Vergil Ortiz was. I had to tell you this kid was a superstar in the making. And you're like, and it wasn't until he goes out there and for the first time in his career, Herrera got knocked out. Not only did he get knocked out, he was brutalized by Vergil Ortiz. And then all of a sudden you became a fan. And
yeah, it's sort of like Lennox Lewis, right?
Because as Amelia was just, stating about where you don't talk a lot. Vergil does not talk a lot. Vergil does not go around and call people out. He doesn't threaten. There's very little things that Vergil does other than he goes in there and fights. I think one of the best things about Vergil Ortiz Jr. was the fact that at one point in time, someone gave him the nickname, no nickname needed. because Vergil just came out and Vergil did what Vergil does. Now, the Boots Ennis fight, Vergil has wanted this for the longest time. I know a lot of people that are friends with Vergil Ortiz from back in the days when he was an amateur that, where they sit there and say, they said then, this kid works hard nonstop. He wants to prove he's the best. He wants to be a superstar, but Ryan Garcia attracts the non-boxing fans very much like Oscar did when Oscar was young. So follow the money. And Vergil Ortiz isn't getting the credit just like Terrence Crawford did, where, the skills pay the bills.
Yeah. Well, by the way, that time we were out there, that was the first time I met Ryan Garcia too, though. He was, and he was a different guy back then.
Oh yeah. He was
I'll just say that.
But the other thing, this fight, the Opetaya versus Glayton fight.
Wait. Before we talk about that, getting back to the Vergil and Oscar thing, the thing that gets me though, Dax, regardless of whose side you're on, so to speak. I don't mean you, but I mean anybody. The thing is that there was a contract in place. I think somebody had told me that there might have only been one fight left on it, but there's a contract in place. And when sometimes fighters get, people whispering in their ear and they make a move that, ends up going through what this one's going through.
Yeah, but Vergil is not that type of guy. He's not the type of guy. Look, Canelo burnt bridges in Mexico. David Tua, remember that long break that David Tua had? He didn't fight for quite some time. I remember talking to him over the phone once. He said, Dax, I would love to fight if it wasn't for the fact that they weren't getting me the fights. They weren't getting me enough fights. And then on top of that, just to make things worse, not only were they not getting me fights, but if I would have fought on my own, which they allowed in court, so long as they got a piece of my money. So why am I going to go in there and risk myself for that? Andre Ward went through something similar with Goosen Promotions. So yeah, these fighters that do go out there and they prove themselves, and once they become a star, they're not pushed. On this show, we talked about back when Sergio Martinez was one of the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the sport, and the only time you heard about Sergio Martinez was the week of the fight.
Yeah, well, that happens even today. That's a whole nother story. But with the fact that promoters don't promote, but again, talking about going back to Opetaya fight, I thought, I mean, look, he won that fight. It didn't seem like he was throwing punches as hard as he usually does, but maybe that was Brandon Glanton's chin. I mean, he was a tough guy. I kind of want to see him again.
Glanton is kind of, look, first of all, put it this way, these are 2 top 10. Well, obviously, Opetaya is the man in the division. But when I say top 10, I mean they are 2 top 10 Ring Magazine ranked fighters. Glayton is number 10 in the division according to Ring Magazine. Now, Glayton doesn't have this overly littered resume of names that people would recognize. And as you always say, that's because a lot of it is due to the fact that the cruiserweight division in the United States isn't really that popular. It's just kind of picking up. And I think that the fact that this fight took place in Vegas is going to help that. But Glayton, he fought in his 4th fight David Light, who was 19-0. After David Light defeated him by decision, David Light went on and fought Lawrence Oakley when Oakley was the WBO cruiserweight champion. And then Glayton loses to Chris Billiam Smith in 2025 in the UK. And remember, Billiam Smith is the guy that defeated Oakley for the WBO title. And the scores were the same exact scores that Smith lost the WBO title to Gilberto Ramirez, 116-112 twice and 116-113. So this guy was a legitimate opponent. It's just the fact that he wasn't a known opponent in this country, and Opetaya really isn't that known in this country either because the cruiserweight division is not that popular. Other than that, though, this was a legitimate fight between two legitimate top 10 pound for pound fighters. Now, what aggravates me is the IBF was all for this. And Opetaya's team had a meeting with the IBF and stated that the Zuffa title, or the Zuffa belt, let's say, is going to be more or less a recognition title. It's not going to be something that is going to be defended. The WBC has awarded countless of those to Canelo and Floyd Mayweather, depending on the magnitude of the event. Yep. Now that Zuffa awarded the title to Jai, all of a sudden the IBF decides, I shouldn't, even before then, they kind of more or less decided that they weren't going to go along with it, which is why the IBF title wasn't, involved officially. The reason for that, I don't understand, considering the Zuffa belt really isn't recognized by any commission across the world. It's really not a title yet.
It is. That's the whole thing. What puts value in a title? I mean, you don't pay sanctioning fees for Zuffa boxing, right? The value in a title, the sanctioning bodies, all they want is the sanctioning fees. You know that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. We've had that debate countless times. I think everybody's had that debate countless times.
It's going to be interesting to see at the end of the day. Now, as far as Opetaya goes with the IBF, they're stupid. You mentioned Floyd Mayweather. Well, Floyd Mayweather, they wanted him to have their belts. They used to let him get away with murder. Didn't he have multiple weight classes he held on for a while, and the rules say you had to pick one. I think he had two different weight classes.
Of course. And look how many times the IBF has stripped people of titles. Literally, the Usyk-Dubois fight.
Well,
they stripped. Usyk wasn't even out of the ring yet, and they're stripping him.
Yeah, but I believe Opetaya, they stripped him for some reason, and then he had to win it back. I'm pretty sure he lost that title for some reason in between.
They make this stuff going up.
Yeah. Well, see,
this is why
Zuffa. This is why I feel Zuffa's gonna do well, because if they make it, Amelia said it right. If they make the money, you'll see people wanting to fight for that belt.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, once they get there, as you stated before about the time and the day, once they get that worked out, I have heard some complaints within the last couple, within the few cards that they have thrown, that, the quality of the cards and the way it's put together and presented isn't all that great. You kind of hinted at that a little bit earlier on. I don't really know what the money situation is compared to what fighters and boxing are going to make to the UFC fighters, because we know that the UFC fighters were so lowly paid, which is a reason why a lot of those guys ended up coming out afterwards, like, George St. Pierre, one of the big names that, said how little he made as a great fighter, sacrificing so much. Now, if they're paying what they're supposed to be paying, and they're making the fights in the same fashion that they did with the UFC, where the best fight's the best, and the only way you can lose it is pretty much the same way the Ring Magazine title is the only way you can lose it. You're either defeated, you retire, or inactivity, or you come up dirty for Peds. It's one of the three. If that happens, and Zuffa, and we had this conversation on here, that's another one, Bill, years ago. If we dug up some archives, you'd find where I said if Dana White came into boxing would totally change. And that was a day that we were all talking about sanctioned bodies. I think it was, believe it was you, me, Alex. I think even Larry was on the show that time. And you kind of dismissed that. But if this works out as planned, as hoped, we can have one world title, which would be Zuffa, and then the lineal title, which would be Ring Magazine. And of course, the lineal title, the Ring Magazine title, always trumps all. And that would be increasing boxing fan base, because how many people have stopped watching the sport because they feel cheated? How do you feel cheated? You feel cheated when you spend $80 on a pay-per-view to find out that the guy that you paid to see isn't really the world champion. He is the regular champion. He's not the super world champion. And he fought somebody else that isn't even really ranked. He was just a guy that came in there because the other guy, he was up and he's going to fight the super world champion in the future. You know, and so that's why when we see boxing pay-per-views and we see UFC pay-per-views, and the UFC throws more pay-per-views than boxing does, the UFC always has more fans.
The reason, what I was saying about why, you know, and I was using all of the other leagues, so to speak, as an example. The one thing they all have in common is it's entertaining. You know, you want to see it. You know, like I mentioned the Rizicki's fight. Rizicki was a typical sanctioning body fight. Okay, come on back. You need a win. They throw in some guy that had zero chance of beating Rizicki, and Rizicki beats him, knocks him out. Yeah. Everybody cheers. That's not what is selling these arenas out and selling tickets and what's going to sell Zuffa. The fact is that his fights are entertaining. That card that Jay Apateo was on was extremely entertaining. You know, I mean, and I'm learning to get to know these fighters because they're going to be the ones. Hey, Dax, we're running out of time. Let's talk real quick about your thoughts. You're psyched already about the Inoue Nakatani fight.
If you're not psyched about it, Bill, you're not a boxing fan. You're a casual. And I know that drives people crazy. You're a casual. We have the number 2 pound for pound fighter in the world. He is a 2-division, 4-belt lineal champion. He's undefeated. He has beaten Hall of Famers. He has unified titles one by one. He started out as a minimum weight, I believe. He's worked himself all the way up to super bantamweight. He is 25-0 with 21 knockouts and world title fights. He's defeated 16 world champions. Then you have Nakatani, who has always been more or less considered the heir apparent. He's 10-0 in world title fights. He's 7-0 against 5 current or former world champions. He himself has also started from, I believe, flyweight on up. He's a little bit bigger than Inoue. Inoue's a little bit more experienced. A loss to Inoue won't hurt him. It will actually make him a better fighter. And Inoue losing to Nakatani isn't going to hurt Inoue's legacy due to the fact that Nakatani is that good. And these are 2 legitimately top 10 ranked fighters pound for pound. We're going beyond, just like that last fight. We are not going in more or less the sanctioning body decisions. These guys are ranked by Ring Magazine. They're ranked by the fans, and these guys are the actual pound for pound. The last 2 were, Ring Magazine in their division, but these guys are pound for pound. And not only that, Bill, but think about it. We have 2 guys under 126 pounds that are going to be the biggest fight of Cinco de Mayo weekend. When has that happened since before the Floyd Mayweather era?
Yeah, no. The other thing is what's even, more exciting is that the winner of that fight at some point gets to meet up with Bam Rodriguez. You know that's going to happen.
And then on the other hand, too, you got to figure Chocolatito was the last guy under. Matter of fact, he was the last guy under 126 pounds because Lomachenko was pound for pound number 1 at 126 pounds to be pound for pound number 1. Francisco Estrada was the last guy that was under 122 pounds to be ranked pound for pound top 10. Prior to that, when was the last time that we had fighters that light who were superstars? Nonito Donaire and Victor Chinian. Gomez and Zarate in the 70s, Mark Johnson, Ivo Calderon, Johnny Tapia. Bam Rodriguez should be in that mix, but right now Bam Rodriguez doesn't have quite that worldwide recognition yet.
He's getting there, though.
He's getting there, but
And
like I said,
he's exciting.
This is big for boxing because again, just like the cruiserweight division and just like Zuffa, this is big for boxing because now more fans are going to realize, you know what? It's not just the PBC, it's not the welterweight division, it's not the middleweight division, and it's not the light heavyweight division and heavyweight division that matters. This sport is not only global, but this sport has great talent from top to bottom.
And that's why I keep saying, if it was if we used unity as a backdrop, if all these fighters became available in one pool, and you could pick the best ones or the best rise to the top out of all of them for one title, could you imagine how great boxing would be? It would actually be the way boxing was in the 30s, 40s,
as Amelia said before, you know what? They're chasing the best. These guys are chasing greatness. They're all chasing greatness, Bill.
You chase who?
These guys they're all chasing greatness. All the names I mentioned, they're chasing greatness.
Okay, great. For the guys that are willing to fight the fights, yes. And I think when there's when there can be one champion or a unified champion, they're chasing greatness.
And that's the point. They're chasing greatness. They don't want to just have a belt and they want to be not only the number one guy in their division, they want to leave a legacy behind, and they want to prove that they are the best by fighting the best.
But the fighters that pick the easiest fights and then pound their chest that they're the best, that's half the problem.
Where did they fade to? Remember, Errol Spence was going to be the next Floyd Mayweather Jr. Where's Errol Spence now? Remember, Terrence Crawford was a nobody. Terrence Crawford started out as a sparring partner. We spoke about that not long ago for Tim Bradley. Where is Terrence Crawford now? Terrence Crawford is one of the GOATs of all time, and there's no debating it.
100%. As a matter of fact,
Alexander Usyk. Everybody complains. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? He comes out of the same Olympics as Anthony Joshua. He boosts up, and what's he do? Alexander Usyk is one of the top 5 greatest heavyweights of all time, skill-wise. He would be able to fight in any division, in any era, rather. We have Bivol, Beterbiev. We have, Canelo's era is over. We have guys in the middleweight division. We have Vergil Ortiz. So many guys, Bill, are just so great, and they're chasing greatness, and that's what's going to bring boxing back to what you always said, the glory days.
If they fight each other.
And they're not afraid to take the O.
No, well, that to me, if you had to say one single thing that could help, it would be that. Don't be afraid to lose the O.
When Bivol faced Beterbiev, and he lost his O, and then Beterbiev rematched him, and Beterbiev lost his O, I think that actually made them greater fighters in terms of legacy. And it made them more adored by fans worldwide.
Well, I think the sport is changing, and one of the biggest reasons is I think the fans want to see action, and that's what's given life to some of these smaller little entities like the bare knuckle boxing and the Professional Fight League, and because they're seeing competitive fights that you want to watch, and they're filling arenas, so eventually you're not going to have any names, especially if some of these big names slide over. Listen, we're in the middle of something that is changing before our eyes, and we're going to be talking a totally different talk in a year from now.
We'll leave it at this. If we had more leagues in boxing, just like they have in the UFC, in MMA. You have the UFC, then you would have Bellator. Everybody knows that the UFC is the elite, Bellator is second. Now, even if they did that in boxing, you had 1 or 2 or 3 leagues, more or less what the PBC was a league, everybody would know who is the best, because the best are going to be in one league, and then you're going to have the second tier, and then you're going to have the third tier. And that makes the sanctioning bodies pretty much irrelevant, because the fans will be able to judge for themselves, and the fans will know for themselves.
And that's exactly why the sanctioning bodies are nuzzling up to each other because they feel that if they form an alliance, they can battle this evil, one world champion thought process, and they have a right to be scared.
One
If
world
I was them,
champion. What are they talking
Yeah,
about? One world
exactly.
champion.
Exactly. And then you hear people say, "Oh, well, belts are good. Belts are good because they can make more money." Who makes the money? I mean, you. Well, listen, it's all going to boil down to money, and we'll see how it goes. We're going to know within a year. So
One world
anyway,
champion. I
no,
haven't heard about it, but I'm
I've
sure it's happened. I'm going to look into it. My people haven't told me about it.
Yeah, well, there might be, but
But I'll tell you this much: these sanctioning bodies, since they've come out, they're bad. They're very bad.
Yeah, the sanctioning bodies are funny. We had Boxing Bob Newman on. He covered all of the conventions, and he said that one of the main topics was how they have to team together and fight this evil Zuffa boxing. So, hey, Dax, we got to get you back on when you can, especially when we got some big fights coming up. Maybe come on and give your thoughts before the fight.
Just had a good opportunity today, working a lot, schedule changes, and the weather's changing, but definitely be back. And it was great to talk to everybody.
All right, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
All right, take care. That's my man, Daxx Khan. He's been busy, but he'll be back. All right, boys and girls, that wraps up our show for today. Appreciate the time. Remember, follow us on the socials, friend us, subscribe, all those things that you people do on social media. But make sure you tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.